Welcome to Take a Hike with Tim. We're here at Wildwood, an Acres Land Trust Preserve. So Wildwood used to be farmland, and then I want to say late 60s, early 70s, the France family purchased the property. Maybe they were already living here, but they decided to change it from farmland back into natural wetlands. So they quit farming, started planting a lot of trees, restoring some of the natural wetland formations and such. And so over 50 or so years, it's back to a pretty good natural state. So we do have a lot of wetland here. If you've watched my videos, I've mentioned before that a lot of Indiana used to be swampland, Kankakee marsh or bog, something like that. But a big chunk of Indiana, probably, I don't know, probably the top half of the state was at one time all basically wetlands, mixed in with some forest area, a little bit of prairie grassland, but primarily wetland. Over the years, through farming, we've drained almost all of the wetland, although it wants to go back. So this is why you'll see a lot of flooding, because the land isn't supposed to be farmland. It's supposed to be wetland. So anyway, Wildwood at one time had a lot of trails, probably too many trails. And so in the last, I'd say 5 years maybe, in about the last 5 years, Acres has really worked on streamlining, simplifying a lot of the trails here. So some of the trails that used to exist have been closed off. A couple new trails have been added. But yeah, the trails that are here now make a lot more sense than what they used to. It used to just be a whole bunch of trails. When I taught a hiking class, we would come out here, and this would be the location where we'd first practice using a map, because it would just be so difficult. There are so many trails, and the map wasn't necessarily accurate to the ground, and so it'd be really hard to try and figure out where you were. And so I just told people, do your best. It's going to be hard, just do your best. And I taught a hiking class for 7 years, twice a year for 7 years, so 14 classes. And usually you'd have about 20 or so people in a class. So breaking up into groups of 3, 4, or 5. We'd get about 5 groups per class. So, we're talking about 75 or so groups coming out here. And out of those 75 groups, I only had one group that got so lost they just went, found the road, and took the road back. They couldn't figure out how to get back using the maps. That group ended up doing better by the end of the class, but for the class went for 7 weeks, and this was probably second or third week, depending. I changed some of the class throughout, but yeah. Anyway, they just got so lost. They just went, found the road, took the roads back. So I point that out because even though they got lost, they were not so lost that they couldn't figure out their way home. They just couldn't get home the way they wanted to, but they were able to make it back to their car. So, right. And that happens sometimes while you're hiking. There's a way you want to go, you get a little bit off path, and you end up going a different way. That's not always bad. Anyway, you can see it's pretty snowy out today. Sounds like Casey, the caretaker, might be chopping some wood on the other side. Well, who knows? Keep hiking and we'll check it out, and I'll bring you back to video when we get to some more exciting parts. So over here, go off trail a little bit. You can see right here, that little tree stump there, evidence of some beaver activity. Out here, I don't know how well this will show up on camera, but we've got a wetland here, frozen over right now. But you can see little bits of the ice where the water would be. Yeah, so sometimes if you come out here, you'll see that this can be muddy where we are right now, because it is kind of low ground right next to a wetland area. So run the risk of this trail being muddy, but everything's frozen over right now. We've got a couple inches, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 inches of snow still on the ground. So don't have to worry too much about mud today. But more hiking. Coming up here on the left, you'll see where the trail used to go, but they don't want people going that way anymore. However, you can also see a lot of footprints in the snow. So somebody started going that way and turned around, but we also have a lot of people who ended up going that way, right? So the challenge is you have people who've been hiking these trails for 20, 30, maybe 50 years. And they think they know where the trails go. And it's true, at one point the trails went that way, but they don't go that way anymore, right? So for various reasons, this way I can tell you why. The swampland has expanded. And so where the trail used to be is now just always wet. And so to go through it, you have to go through the mud, the muck, the sensitive ecological area. So they don't want you climbing through there. So they got the trail blocked off so that you don't go that way. But there are people who still go that way, right? They just see around the fence. And so you think, well, why don't they just build a bigger fence? It's this balance of trying to keep humans out, but still letting the animals, right? The deer, the rabbits, the beaver. I don't know, maybe there's otters out here. You don't want to block them from their paths. So you hope that by putting up a fence like this, humans are intelligent enough to look at that and say, oh, they don't want us to go that way. But I guess not, because we still see footprints going that way. So if you see a fence or you see a sign that says a trail is closed, it's not just because the landowners are trying to mix things up, right? There's usually a really good reason for it, and you have to trust them. Don't knock down those fences or signs. Don't go around those fences or signs. Okay, more hiking. So one thing that's really nice about Acres Properties, they have a subscription to a website by Esri, E-S-R-I, called ArcGIS. It's a bunch of acronyms. You don't really need to know what they mean, but the important thing is, if you have cell service, and hopefully you can see this on the phone, you can load up the maps on your phone and then there's a blue dot that tells you where you are on the maps. Now, it does require you to have cell phone service, which is not always a guarantee. Right, but unlock that again. But it's really nice, right? If you can see that that little blue dot, and so all of the gray cross hatches, that's where their property is. The green shows the boundary of the property. There's some dashed gray lines, those shows the trails, and then the little dot there shows where you are. So that's really nice. Again, it doesn't work as well if you don't have cell service, but if you do have cell service, it's a really nice feature that not a lot of hiking trails have, right? And so it's really hard to get lost as long as you have cell service. There are some other apps that will do similar things. Some of them even work without cell service. But check out my website, takeahikewithtim.com. If you check out my website, I review a couple of these apps. So check it out. More hiking. I don't know how well this will show up on the camera, but we got some snow starting to come down. The weather-wise, it's not too bad out. It doesn't feel bad. I'm starting to strip layers as I'm hiking, but we are going to have some snow. There's a chance the snow can turn into freezing rain. I'd like to really avoid that as much as possible, but it is what it is. I'm wearing a raincoat as my outer layer in case it happens, but hopefully not. It is really nice though with the snow starting to come down, so I thought I'd give you a minute or two just watching me walk through the snow with more snow coming down. More hiking. So I mentioned that sometimes with trail maintenance, you have to close some trails that people are used to hiking, right? And you got to do this in a way that will stop humans, ideally, hoping that humans will use their logic and reasoning, but not impede animals too much. So here's a trail that's closed, and you don't see any footprints. Might not see any footprints going beyond here, but it also helps that after the fence, so a couple trees have fallen. So that provides more of a barrier for humans, right? It's going to be a lot of work to try to hike through there. So humans will stop as intended, but that shouldn't impede very many animals. So more hiking. I don't know how well this shows up on the camera, but the snow has really changed into freezing rain right now. So I'm going to try to keep hiking. Not sure how much longer I'm going to last. Here's just a nice little area. So we'll do a slow panoramic so you can see here. Yeah, just a nice little place here. Hiking in snow that's not been packed down, that is exhausting, but gotta keep hiking. So the part we're about to go into, I don't think is part of the original France land. I think this is land acres added on last few years. So fencing here where it used to be the edge of the property, but acres expanded here, couple acres here to the east for some additional hiking land. So get to explore this. There are I don't see any footprints here. I've been following a pair of cross-country skis, and I think there's some four-wheeler tracks now. Probably the person I keep hearing chainsawing out here on a four-wheeler, clearing up any downed trees earlier, but not many people hike this part. So if you're curious, how much has it snowed since I've been out here? This driveway was plowed and gravel when I got here. Now you can't even tell that it's a gravel drive. So we've got, I don't know, about ½ inch of snow since I've started hiking. But that's not too bad. Gotta keep hiking. So I'm doing what's called the swamp loop. So it goes around the swamp. Which again, everything right now is pretty frozen, but it's kind of nice. So I've been hiking just under 2 hours today. And in that 2 hours, we've seen about a ½ inch of snow. Freezing rain land here. I'm a little bit covered in ice, but not too bad. As I said, I'm wearing a raincoat as my outer layer, so that has done a pretty good job of keeping me dry. It's pretty nice. Kind of short hikes here. Having a hard time judging distance because the snow has really slowed me down. So I'm probably not hiking the pace I normally hike. I do a pretty good job hiking about 3 miles an hour is a comfortable pace, but snow is slowing me down. Stopped to take some pictures. I'm gonna guess I've probably gone about 4 miles today. But it's been really nice. Even though the weather got a little cold, I am bundled up well. As I said, probably bundled up too well. I'm actually a little bit hot, but with freezing rain coming down, I don't want to lose any of my layers. I will have a blog post in the coming days talking about wearing layers while you hike and why it's a good idea and why it's a bad idea. But anyway, since I'm about to finish up here, this will be the last video. So thanks for taking a hike with Tim.